welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet, and the protectors this city deserves. I am your host. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am Batman. And I'm joined this week by... Catman? I don't know, I didn't really have one for this one.
Yeah, I honestly, I thought
There had to be something in the rogues gallery.
I was thinking maybe you'd go with something like with Robin or Nightwing. Catman was not wrong. Like, you were on the right track.
I was getting there, but you know, I'm with all the ones that I do off the cuff. This one was my worst. One of them had to be.
Yeah, one of them had to be the worst.
And this was it. We found it.
But was this the worst Batman film?
No.
No, definitely not.
Absolutely
not.
But before we get to talking about the Batman, got a little thing we like to call the roundup, the rundown, the thingy-majig where we talk about things that probably won't get a full episode. Kaiser, did you see all of Demon Slayer second season?
Yes. Yeah. I've watched all of... Really, Demon Slayer is where we're starting. I mean, it did recently.
I binged through it like a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't talk about it with Taka, so...
That's fair. Yeah, no, I've seen all of it. It's really fucking pretty.
It's very pretty.
I'm actually looking forward to the dub because I love Ray Chase and I want to see what he does with Uzui.
Yeah. It was a fine series of episodes. I skipped the train part because we already saw the movie.
Yeah.
From what I understand, they just kind of chopped up the movie and made it episodes.
There was like the slightest amount of rearranging of scenes in here and there, and then they also have an introductory episode that that is supposed to properly, like, in-depth introduce you to Rengoku, and it's awful. I actually really hate that episode.
Okay,
because
I skipped that too.
Yeah, good, because it just takes a bunch of his jokes and character points from later episodes and then moves them up into one episode where the plot doesn't matter. So I hate when shows do that. If you're going to introduce me to a character in a filler-only thing, do something interesting, like maybe inform some stuff that never got to go into the show. Don't just show me the character basically being static for 20 minutes. That sucks.
Yeah, I thought this season was pretty good. It had a lot of interesting character moments. Really surprised at how well Zenitsu can just sleepwalk. It makes me wonder if it's actually an act.
I won't lie. I don't want to go. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I will say it is amazing how they took the villain's backstory as they die trope and brought it to the biggest extreme I've ever seen. And I can only wonder how much, like, how further they can stretch the concept from here.
Yeah, it's it is all of that Naruto energy.
It's
at least they condense it. Like it's not. Dude, Naruto will give its villains like 12 episodes.
No, they'll get whole episodes dedicated to their backstory.
Whole arc.
But usually it's like in the middle of the fight, not when the fucking villain is dying.
Which honestly, I'm fine. I'm fine with, like, it's a little weird because, okay, you want to care about this person at all? Well, they're dead now. So here's why you maybe could have cared about them, but you won't.
Anyway, but yeah, point being. Demon Slayer is a very pretty show with some great character designs, really simple but effective characters.
Still a very unique time period.
Yeah, I actually, Giga just did a video about it where he talked about, like, hey, look, the plot is pretty trite. It's simple. It's easy to understand.
Yes.
But that's kind of what facilitates these big, wonderful action sequences where they get to go crazy. And you know what? That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah, they leveled, like, that entire fucking city. Just holy shit.
Yeah. Don't want to get too much into spoilers, but yeah,
it's been out for months.
I'm
not too afraid of it.
It's a good arc, honestly. I did enjoy it. I actually probably enjoyed its first half more than its second in terms of, like, getting to...
The second act kind of, like, spools on a little too long.
Because it's one big action scene.
Yeah.
And I really liked a lot of the character stuff that's in that first half. I really liked the character stuff in its first half more than I liked almost any of the character stuff in the first season, especially because it gives Zenitsu actual, like, stuff to do as a character. Like, I love the fact that he's developed from being the loud, cowardly dude to the guy who's actually kind of smarter than the other two of them because he's had more worldly experience. Mm-hmm. He's like, that's a train. This is the entertainment district. Do you people not know where we are or what the world is? And I kind of love that.
It's kind of adorable watching Tanjiro be, like, the dutiful house girl.
Oh, yeah. Like, honestly, Tanjiro is at his best when he's just being a good boy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've always found him in the action scenes to be like, we get it, you're pure and you're good and you're always putting too much on yourself, and I don't know. It's a fine show. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's fine.
He's expanding on his powers. We know a bit more about, where it came from, and gets to expand on his Saiyan lineage a bit. So we'll see how he goes super eventually.
Yeah. I'm sad though. You guys talked about Peacemaker last week, and I still haven't watched a single damn episode.
Really?
No.
I was actually going to ask you. It's kind of like a recap from there. I would also I would ask in jest, basically, because I know that you've been working your ass on. You just got the JoJo video out. You've been working with Devil Artemis to get the next episode of Hiffle out there. You got a few other things being written and recorded in the background here.
Yep.
And I know you have had zero time for Elden Ring.
I want to play Elden Ring really badly. Because I'm not a Dark Souls guy, but I really love Sekiro, and I know this is more like Dark Souls than it is Sekiro. But apparently, it's the best video game literally ever made, and if you don't play it, you're missing out on the cultural zeitgeist.
I think that's an overstatement. Honestly, it's very, very good, and
I've literally met some people who say it's the best video game they've ever played.
Honestly, I could understand people that feel that way. If you're super into Souls, super into this style of game, very much so. It is a very, very good cultivation of everything that From has been working on in the Souls series up until now. It does kind of stand on the shoulders of its foundation, and it has a very solid foundation. And it does something that I didn't think possible. Just before playing this, I kind of made my way through Horizon Forbidden West, which is, another open world game. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I got it in me to play 2 open world games in a row. Because when I think an open world game, I think, okay, I'm going to see a map and it's going to be full of fucking dots and side quests that I have to go do and just follow the arrow. I'm like, am I going to have the energy to do that with a Souls game after this? But then I booted up Elden Ring, and it does that Breath of the Wild thing, where you get out into the world, and it just says, okay, here's where you should go if you want to progress the plot. So yeah, you go there, and you immediately hit the biggest bitch slap of a From boss wall that I have ever hit in my life. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna go this way then. And you just choose a direction and you go, and you end up with all these amazing little experiences with no real verbal stories being told unless you run into an NPC, but every area, every encounter kind of becomes its own story, its own little adventure. And that is just such a cool thing that so many open world games, mainly Ubisoft, just does away with. You feel very much when you're doing a side quest in one of those games like you're a character in somebody else's story. But when you run into a NPC and this is like, hey, this happened to me. If you go that way, that's what you're going to run into. Okay, I am doing that. I'm not doing this for anyone. I am doing this, and somebody else has skin in the game.
Yeah, and that's cool. I like that. I've the biggest compliment that I've heard about the game is that, like you said, a lot of people who were not looking forward to the open world aspect or were maybe kind of cautious about it because, let's be honest, sometimes sometimes the open world shit is just an excuse to pad for time and or it's implemented because that's the trend in the industry. I hear that this is the best open world the best open world that people have played in a long, long time.
Like I said, it's up there with Breath of the Wild, where any direction you go, you're gonna find something interesting.
Yeah, it seems like it's setting a new standard for other games if they decide to do open world in the future.
Very much so, and I really hope that, I want this game to get more support. I want to see Dark Souls levels of DLC added to it, where you just find more fun shit popping up. I'm super down. I'm still playing it, and I'm still having a goddamn blast, just wielding the giant ass gut sword and smashing things to oblivion.
I found out how you get that sword, and I don't know if I want to do it.
All I have to do is walk through a group of T-Rex dogs.
I thought it belonged to Blade.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, he has a sword, but I'm not smart enough to use that sword.
Right.
Some swords you need to have the user manual, and this one's in Dutch. I don't speak Dutch. But yeah, Elden Ring is absolutely fantastic, and I love it, and very, very good game. Highly recommend. Very solid.
Have you done Ronnie's quest line?
Not all of it.
Okay.
I am planning on playing it because again, it looks really good, and a lot of people love it. And even if I've not played many Soulsborne games before, apparently this one's one of the best, if not the best. So,
Bloodborne was probably my favorite Souls game. No, it's not a Souls game, whatever titles.
I mean,
now this is very much up there on its tier.
Well, so now I didn't know that Soulsborne was a term, but I kind of like Soulsborne. It's a good little portmanteau.
Yeah, solid stuff. Good. I'm not saying anything that nobody already knows.
Yeah,
basically.
I figured.
But I just wanted to express my love for that game as well, and to state that I'm playing it, and it's fun.
I wonder if there's anything I've been watching. Unfortunately, I have been unfortunately my time lately has just been editing and then I don't know, watching maybe an H-Bomber Guy video as it's coming out. H-Bomber Guy did a fantastic video about Deus Ex that is mwah, chef's kiss. So good.
Because I know The Boys, Diabolical, that animated show
right.
came out. I haven't taken a look at that yet.
Yeah.
It was the first 3 episodes or something.
Honestly, I was sort of put off by the fact that they were look at all these great different animation styles. Now, don't mind us as we list all of the actors that are going to be in it. I'm like, oh, cool, that's great. I'm really getting kind of sick and tired and put off by the industry right now, and it's actually making me actively avoid watching stuff I might have enjoyed.
The thing that's kind of turned me off to is look, I'll watch The Boys. I'm interested in The Boys. I'll watch the next season.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch the next season of The Boys.
But then it's hey, watch this spin-off thing of The Boys that tells the kind of a similar story, but differently. I'm I don't know if I got that in me, man. I'll stick around for the franchise on one platform, but I don't know if I got it in me to watch 2 different things of the same fucking show.
Sometimes I'm about that, but yeah, this honestly, when I was looking at it, there wasn't anything that really screamed to me, "Yo, you should watch this."
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Where it's just I'll probably end up binging through it at some point anyway, and who knows, maybe this thing's fucking fantastic. I would love for that to be the case. I don't like watching shit, but
I will say I'm getting a little exhausted of the what if superheroes, but they're actually bad guys, which is the reason that I haven't really checked out Peacemaker.
I think you're not checking out Peacemaker for the wrong reason then.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of commentary on comic book heroes. That's my point.
It's not really what Peacemaker does. Honestly.
Okay. I mean, all I've seen from it has been that, so I'm very curious.
Then maybe your definition of what you're describing is different from what I'm hearing.
We'll see. I'm curious because again, I'm going to watch Peacemaker. I know I'm going to. I'm a huge James Gunn fan, and even if I heard that the first couple of episodes are a little meh, I hear it's actually pretty good by the end.
Dude, you get to see John Cena's ass in the first episode, just full out there.
Look, I said I'm going to see it. Okay.
Yeah. Just putting that on the table. John Cena's ass right on the table.
I mean, there's already that scene in Suicide Squad that I'm why is this here? Other than apparently DC looked at Marvel and we can one up all of their their fucking
macho manliness.
Well, there's so many scenes in Marvel, which I appreciate, by the way, where it's oh yeah, by the way, since we like to sexualize the women, here are the men. Here's just a scene of fucking Chris Hemsworth without his shirt on for no good reason. I'm okay, cool. That's what I want. If you're going to sexualize the women, sexualize the dudes too. Give the women and the gay men in the audience something.
And that's something that DC's actually been kind of pushing a little bit more towards. They're going for that more mature edge in their movies, where Marvel's trying to be a bit more kid-friendly, a bit more general audience friendly.
Which is a complete invert of the 90s.
Very, in a lot of ways. I mean, DC has always had some pretty mature content, but so has Marvel. Marvel was always Marvel was always very teen edge, I think.
Yeah.
It had some gruesome stuff, and yeah, it did have some adult comics, or more adult, mature focused comics. But DC would get into some of that darker shit pretty hard too.
When I was younger, I just remember that Marvel had a lot of and you know what? This might have been the fact that I was paying more attention to Marvel than DC at the time, and also because DC was the one with the animated the kid-friendly animated series. Yeah, it might come down to the fact that when I was growing up in the 90s and 2000s, you had those the TV shows that were kid-friendly. You had the movies that were more kid-friendly. I mean, there was the Tim Burton Batman films, which Okay, those were made for kids? Question mark?
Yeah, but then you had Marvel that came out, and like X-Men came out, and it's like, oh shit, Wolverine said fuck.
Oh, and
This is for big boys.
And not to mention, during that time, like, it was kind of widely accepted that the Marvel cartoons were heavily censored in comparison to, like, all of the comic stuff that was happening at the time. Like, you couldn't show Carnage being Carnage. You couldn't show Wolverine actually stabbing people.
He cut so many guns.
He cut so many guns
and androids. And aliens. He was allowed to kill aliens.
This has been a fantastic conversation, but I don't want to put off the main topic too much.
Yeah, no, what I was getting to is that DC is currently striving towards a more mature audience, like a mature-centric audience, which, for the Batman, I think really worked out in terms of its tone. I think its tone is great.
Yeah, so, now that we're into the Batman, do we want to avoid spoilers at the beginning here, or do we...
For the beginning, yes.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to say the tone it sets is amazing, and it has probably my favorite introduction of Batman in any movie.
It's remarkably good. I love the fact that it keeps showing those shadows. It's like, is he there? You don't know.
Exactly.
Is he
Like,
there?
you get this amazing shot of like a bank robber with like a mask robbing, or a robber, like, a thief with a mask robbing a gas station. And then he looks up because a police helicopter's flying by, and behind it's a bat signal. And then he turns and he looks down this alley while Robert Pattinson is doing this, admittedly very good film noir detective, like, yeah, they wonder if I'm hiding in every shadow, but that's where they're wrong. I am the shadow. And you just see the shadows like creeping slowly towards the camera as the guy just starts running into the street and immediately gets hit by a cop who lets him go.
No, I do love that, because the idea of setting the tone very early on that it is about not just where he is and what he's doing, but the feeling that all of these criminals get of he could be there at any time. I don't know. And that's great. That's stupendous. I love that.
And it's early on in Batman's cycle. Like, this is supposed to be year 2, right?
Yeah.
Where he's still kind of a myth. Like, there's still those things, the stories circulating where it's like, I wonder if he's actually like a man monster bat creature or a vampire or something.
I don't feel like this is a spoiler. I am so happy that we don't get a single shot of the alleyway. The scene, the one where we lose Tom and Martha.
Yeah,
no.
we don't get to watch Tom and Martha die again.
No,
we are treated like we understand that Batman's parents are killed because everybody knows that Batman lost his parents.
And interestingly, that sort of plays well into the narrative, because as we find out as time goes on, things might be more complicated than what a lot of people who grew up with the comics did. Because one of the things I want to say about this movie early on, for those who haven't seen it, is that don't expect the traditional Batman story here. This actually pulls from a couple of different comics. Like, this version of Alfred is actually from a EU, like an alternate universe interpretation of him. We're not, and also the stuff with his mom. Like, a lot of the stuff here is not traditional Batman stuff. It's actually like some stuff that's from other stories.
It definitely feels like it's setting up for stuff. And you can, if you watch the movie, you can and you're a fan of Batman, that is, you can kind of tell where a lot of its source material is.
Oh yeah, if you're a longtime Batman fan, you're gonna be pointing at the screen being like, I know where that's from, I know where that's from, I know where that's from, I know where they're getting this stuff
from.
Yeah,
one of the obvious ones that I feel like pretty much every Batman movie after the year 2000 cribbed from, Long Halloween.
Yeah.
Long Halloween is a big inspiration in some of this stuff, but there are also some very cinematic and it's also very obvious that they are influenced by, particularly Seven. Seven is like, I'm sitting there and just like watching this, I'm like, man, really fucking loved Seven.
Who doesn't love Seven?
Seven's pretty fucking good.
I mean, honestly, there are probably a lot of people who can't stand the tone and the imagery of Seven.
Or one of the actors.
Or one of the actors, yes.
But still very much heavily inspired, as we're basically given what we aren't given very much. Nolan kind of played with this a bit with the detective angle of Batman, but this goes hard into the detective side of Batman.
Yeah, no, this is a detective story from beginning to end. Like, there are action scenes, there's all the traditional Batman stuff of him fighting criminals, using his gadgets, doing the crazy Batman stuff that Batman does, but it is a detective story from beginning to end, and that makes me happy. I am glad that is the basis of this film.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. And it's not just the tone of the visuals either. This is one of my favorite Batman scores since Danny Elfman had his hands on the franchise.
You like Batman's Imperial March?
So I know that the Imperial March was heavily inspired by the Funeral March, but I feel like this is not cribbing from the Imperial March. I think it is actually very directly pulling from the Funeral March.
Maybe, I don't know, man. You listen to it, and it sounds like, I know that they're both inspired by the same source, but damn if I don't really feel like they're trying to crib the, like, you know, Batman Vader sort of vibe, because it sounds so Imperial March, and I could not unhear it.
I honestly didn't even hear it at all. Oh. Like when you kept saying Imperial March, I actually didn't hear that. All I heard was the sound of it embodied what the Imperial March was also trying to embody to a certain extent, but because it was the soft piano, instead of the feeling of an oppressive, tyrannical like regime, I felt this tone of like somber resonance. Every step that he took, every move that he made, in each scene, it felt like the oppressive deterioration of Gotham was embodied within the Batman. Every scene he was in, every moment. I don't know. I really liked it. I
don't blame you, because I feel like until I saw the ending, I legitimately thought that John Williams had something to do with this score, because it feels heavily inspired by a lot of his works.
I suppose. I mean, ultimately, a lot of music in Hollywood is kind of taking a little bit from one another nowadays, anyway. But
all things are derivative. Nothing is original.
Nothing is original. No. But yeah, I loved the score. I love the visuals. Also, speaking of visuals, this is maybe my favorite live action Batsuit.
It certainly wasn't bad. It reminded me a little too much of Owlman from Watchmen. It had like these shades of brown to it.
I don't think it had any brown.
Maybe that was just the overall filter of the movie.
I think it was the filter of the movie. I don't think there's actually any brown on it.
It looked brown in certain scenes. It was just because the tone of the movie, like the lens or
there is a lot of red going on. Mm-hmm. And also it gets dirty. It gets dirty. It is a dirty suit in a dirty film. This is a grimy film. This film is grimy as fuck. This definitely feels like it's the same city, the same Gotham from the Joker. Like 100%. This is the same Gotham. I was
almost wondering if that's what they were going for a bit. I honestly, they still haven't entirely ruled it out, but
I mean, it would be really interesting if, in fact, although we know that this isn't the same because of how the Joker ends.
It's not necessarily. He could be the guy that inspired people, because you see in the beginning, and this isn't spoilers, you see a roving gang of clowns.
Oh, well, I was going to say, I meant at the end of the Joker, we know who kills, we see the scene where Thomas and Martha Wayne die.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't want to get too much into spoilers for this film, so I'm not going to touch too far on that right now. But point being, there's still a possibility, I suppose. But this film is visually, I almost have no notes. Like, I genuinely enjoyed everything visually in this film. I will say there were a couple of scenes where it kind of felt like, yeah, we get it. You're like, in terms of the actual cinematography, they languish a lot. I will say the first criticism I want to give for this film, maybe Matt Reeves needed to go over a second pass with his editor, because this
it's a very long movie.
It's a very long movie, and I do not think it justifies its length. I've met some people that say like, "Oh, I felt like this was paced so good," and I'm over here like, "Okay, I don't know about that so much."
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure where I'd cut from, but honestly, there are certainly things that could be cut.
I did feel like there were scenes that were languishing on shots a little bit too long. Some shots that are like, hey, don't you want to take in all the scenery? And it's like, I mean, I did and I have. You can move on now. We don't need like this shot of these two characters riding on a bike for 2 whole minutes. Like, okay, we get it. I understand that you're trying to establish the atmosphere, but at some point I was like, okay, you can move on.
Where I do think it's very well paced is that it does pace out its action very well.
Oh yeah.
Because you open on like a very much creepy kind of horror film sort of shot. I can't remember if it's like pre-credits or just after credits, but then it goes to Batman's introduction, which ends in an action scene. Then you get plot, lots of plot for a while. Batman being a detective. Really cool car chase that I actually really liked. You don't get a lot of wrong side of the road car chases anymore, especially at night where you can actually tell what the hell is going on and the actual traffic actually being an obstacle.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like really well used. I know. I don't know. I really like that car chase.
I liked its finale more than I liked most of the actual car chase, if only because at some point I was like, okay, again, it felt like that scene went on a long while, and I didn't think it did too much creatively in terms of utilizing its premise. Again, it's the ending of it. The climax of that car chase is one of the coolest Batman like moments. It's just so well done. I was actually like fucking giddy when I saw, let's just say, the ramp. I was like, oh, okay, I know exactly what's about to happen here, and that's the kind of superhero, like the superhero comic book shit that I love out of the Batman, where you get these amazing set pieces, especially with the Batmobile, which in this film is a really neat interpretation of the Batmobile.
I thought it was cool. Like it's not a tank. It's just like a really souped up car with a jet engine.
Yes, which it's sick. It's sick. It's really sick.
Especially the first time booted up, because the thing they do really well with Batman here is that they make him imposing. And like just even down to his equipment not necessarily being visually, accessible, so you don't know when he's doing stuff and how he's doing some things. Like he has a taser in his hand and stuff like that. And then when the car's booting up, it's just making this really creepy, otherworldly whine and roar. So everybody's like looking around like, what the hell? And then it just roars to life, spitting out flames like, fuck! And everybody's like getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah, it's like he designed that car to be as intimidating as fucking possible. Mm-hmm. I will say that high-pitched whine, I have a bit of a hearing thing, so there was a part of me that was like, okay, please just actually start the scene, because it hurt my ears. But that's just me. Like a lot of other people were like creaming their pants during that scene, and I was too. I was also just uncomfortable.
Yeah, they do a really good job of introducing Batman as an intimidating force who knows what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
Which is important. That's a very important part of Batman. And the Riddler, I thought was also really well cast, honestly. He comes across as, somebody who's been shunned by society, somebody who ultimately means well by his own standards, even though they're fucking wrong in any moral context.
The Riddler is... I feel like to get deep into the Riddler, we're going to have to go into spoilers.
Which I'm not going to yet.
Yeah.
But
can I talk about Catwoman?
We're on the Riddler right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, but let's...
I wanted to talk about the casting of the Riddler. I thought the dude they got for this...
Okay, I thought he was... But that's the problem. I feel like if I talk about the Riddler to any extent, I'm going to have to start going into parts, because the initial parts with Riddler, they're all like in the mask and covered up, and he's acting like fucking Jigsaw meets fucking, I don't know,
Buffalo Bill.
Kind of. Actually, yes, that's perfect. He's Buffalo Bill meets Jigsaw, and I hate to say it, I wasn't feeling him from like a lot of the film, because and I don't know if maybe this is, what, I can't even say it's my previous interactions with the Riddler, because when I went into this film, I was accepting that, okay, the characterizations for a lot of these characters are not going to match one for one with any of the stuff that I watched before. And I was okay with that. Like, the Penguin in this is very different from the other Penguins I grew up with. I still loved him because fucking Colin Farrell is going so hard and so good.
Couldn't even tell it was him. It's one of those transformational roles.
Yeah. But for the Riddler, I felt it was hard for me to get a beat on what they were trying to do with the character in a way that, like, okay, do you want him to actually be intimidating and like creepy and effective? Because every time he showed up, I struggled not to laugh, like actually laugh. because the way that he was being performed came off as less disturbing and like creepy and unsettling, and more, dude, you're a giant fucking dork. What are you doing?
I think that's kind of the point, though, in like a lot of the ways, because the Riddler is a fucking dork.
Oh, and that's cool, but it felt, I wasn't sure what the film was going for half the time, because with the music, the tone, the lighting, and everything.
Have you ever seen Mindhunters?
No, actually.
Okay. There's like a lot of the opening scenes, like the cold opens of those shows, involve just following around a guy in his daily life. It's just some unassuming nerdy dork who's clearly touched in some way.
I know that this has inspired a lot of people online to come try and be fucking detectives.
Well, I mean, it's the like the BTK killer.
Right.
And it's that unassuming person who's just like out of his fucking mind and has this compulsion. The Riddler is just a man who's insanely gifted intellectually.
Yeah.
Who is sick and tired and wants to do something about the world that he sees as wrong. He goes about it in a very unhealthy way because he's clearly been hanging out on the wrong forums, clearly listening to the wrong people in terms of who he believes is right. And when he takes matters into his own hands and just decides to play a game with the Batman, it comes like he rides this line of being, yes, kind of like over the top and like goofy, but I think it's that the fact that he's this guy that you could, walk into 7-Eleven and see behind the counter.
Yeah. And look, I get what you're saying, and I feel like your interpretation is on point. I know a lot of people have seen the film and thought, oh wow, the Riddler, like they got it. I'm just saying, from my perspective, it was difficult for me to place what the tone of him was supposed to be. Again, with the music, the camera angles, the violence happening. It like, if they were trying to go for kind of like this, he's kind of a total dork, but he's doing these horrible, terrible, violent things. I get it, but it was just tough for me, a lot of the film, not to just kind of laugh in a way that was more mocking of the film's interpretation rather than like, I don't know.
Do you have a favorite Riddler?
A favorite? Oh, for me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, probably. Unfortunately, I grew up in the 90s, so my favorite Riddler is Batman the Animated Series Riddler. The Riddler who is the smarmy kind of like dresses in the suit,
The one who's basically just Alec DeLonge without the rape.
I guess. I love the fact that he's this like over the top crazy dude who's like really good at riddles, but also like so full of himself that he always undermines himself because he can't see beyond his own ego. That's my favorite. Like, but then again, that's the Riddler that I grew up with. I'm not saying that is a better Riddler.
I grew up with that Riddler as well, but he left like 0 marks for me. Like, while I was watching that show, I'm like, okay, it's a Riddler episode, whatever.
I mean, I was going to say like the only other Riddler that I've been like really exposed to have been like some of the comic book Riddlers, which they vary depending on the story and the writer. The one from Arkham, which is like
a side quest.
Yeah, he's just a side quest. And Harley Quinn,
who's like barely even on screen and is mainly for comedy.
There's also the animated The Batman Riddler, who was actually a little bit closer to this one, I'd say.
Nah, never saw that one. I've seen some like the New 52 stuff, like he like in the New 52 Hush animated movie, stuff like that. The only other Riddler that I can think of outside of Jim Carrey, which...
Oh, I mean, okay, yeah, there's also I forgot about Jim Carrey Riddler, who is the perfect Riddler. No notes.
No notes. Can't... Like, he fits the tone of that movie perfectly.
Yes.
And then there's the one from Gotham, which... Honestly, one of the things I thought about when watching this movie is I'm like, it's kind of like if Gotham took itself seriously.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, but my point about there are other things I have to say about the Riddler, but I can't yet.
Okay, well, we'll get into that later. So we'll move on to the Catwoman.
This may be my favorite Catwoman.
I would not blame you, as many of the other Catwomen have never been really given a chance to be characters.
I mean, I love. Was it Michelle Pfeiffer?
No.
Who was
Selma. Wait, was it? I don't fucking know and I don't fucking remember.
the one? I think it was Michelle Pfeiffer from the Burton films.
Oh, Burton?
Yeah,
Maybe. You're probably right. I don't know.
like I was in love with the Burton.
You're right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I was trying to think of the Nolan.
Yeah. Oh no, that was. Wow, I feel bad that I can't remember.
Right?
Yeah, but no, Catwoman, like all of the live action Catwoman, I really liked a lot of them. I loved
Anne Hathaway.
Okay, so it was. I was actually thinking Anne Hathaway, but I was like, I don't want to commit to it. Michelle Pfeiffer, so much fun, so much fucking fun. Anne Hathaway. Honestly, more like I liked her visually, and I liked a lot of her outside of the suit more than in the suit. Halle Berry is very attractive in that role, and insanely attractive in that role, and that's the best that I feel like I can give.
Never seen it.
She rocks that outfit. It is a silly outfit.
I've seen that part. I've not seen any of the movie.
It is a silly outfit in a very terrible movie, but she looks good. She's rocking it. She's like got a lot of personality. It's a terrible film though.
Okay, I'll take your word.
Yeah. But Zoe Kravitz nails everything that I kind of feel like I want in a Catwoman, from looking amazing as in the suit, from using the whip in cool and creative ways, to having a great backstory about somebody who's come from nothing and steals from bad guys and looks out for like, I really like this Catwoman. It's everything that I want in a Catwoman.
She plays streetwise very well.
Yeah.
And she plays that anti-hero, the Aladdin type where you're, down on your luck, but you have a good heart very well. I really like this Catwoman as well. I think that her chemistry with Robert Pattinson was next to non-existent at times, mostly because Robert Pattinson only was given like one note in direction, I feel like, because he does Batman well, but I don't think he has anything of Bruce Wayne.
So you're right. I think you're right. I agree with you is what I'm saying, because I don't want to say anything objective, obviously. But I love Robert Pattinson when he is Batman in this film. And I even liked some of the scenes of him with Catwoman. I just felt like sometimes the way that like, again, I think it was kind of an editing problem. Like these shots that would languish a little bit too long.
There's one that languished a little long that made me wonder, because like one of his first interactions with her is he follows her out of, the gangster club, follows her home, and just watches her as she changes.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, what the fuck? You're the good guy.
Yeah, like, look, if I know that we don't need this. I know that the interpretation of the Batman in this film, as we see, is he is not getting off on this.
No, this is purely an asexual, what are you doing act.
Yeah, although I can see that being part of the reason he does, in fact, start to feel some stuff for her. Like, you see something like that, and the fucking Zoe Kravitz, yeah, she's beautiful. How could you not? But it did kind of like, it was a little oddly voyeuristic to have an entire scene of her stripping down to her underwear and then putting on the outfit where the audience just gets to watch all of it happening. And you also know you're seeing this through the eyes of our hero. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. I wasn't, and I get that this interpretation of Batman is that he's probably looking at this like, hey, I need to see what she's doing.
He's looking at this for empirical facts, where it's like, what are you doing? Okay, you're in an apartment with the girl of interest, and now you're doing something. But like, and when she starts changing, they do cut to a look of him, and he does take the glasses down for a second, and he puts them back up. I know that's meant to imply like, I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I must.
Yeah. But that honestly, it's not too big of a deal. It's not like rancid or anything. It's just uncomfortable. And we do see, and I also like the way that it parallels, because this is early on in the film, I don't mind saying this, it parallels the initial scene, the opening shot that we
Yeah,
get.
that serial killer thing I was talking about. Where
Hey, isn't it kind of interesting that the serial killer and the superhero are doing the exact same thing under different circumstances? That's real neat.
they paint that parallel a lot throughout the movie, and
Which I have to say, the themes in this movie, the way that it carries these things out, the parallels that it draws, what it has to say, I really like. I really like the things that it has to say, even if, as we'll get into...
It's reminiscent of The Dark Knight, which also plays with these themes very much. But it does it in a more... I don't know, I guess a more in-your-face way in this movie.
Which I'm okay with. I'm okay with being a little bit more upfront with the things that it's trying to approach. Because sometimes I do think too much... what do you call it?
Subtlety?
Although, I will say, in The Dark Knight Rises... I feel like there's not that much subtlety.
Oh, no, I was talking purely about The Dark Knight.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. No, I meant The Dark Knight. I feel like there was very little subtlety in The Dark Knight now that I think back on it. I feel like it very much tells you up front what a lot of its themes are. Like, especially the Joker says it. Like, the people of Gotham say it. Batman says it. I feel like there was very little to be left on the table. In fact, in some ways...
And yet I still feel like this one was a bit more in your face with it.
Well, perhaps. I feel like it was about as in your face, honestly.
Maybe.
But I do really like the themes because, like, I feel like now we could probably start getting into spoiler territory.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But before we do, overall thoughts, recommend?
I do recommend this film. I'm about to get into some stuff because there is some stuff that I legitimately felt way flatter on that we haven't talked about because I feel like the last third of this movie is a kind of a mess for me in terms of what it was trying to do with its first two.
Okay, so where does the Kaizometer sit out of 10?
Out of 10, probably a solid 7.5. And an actual 7.5. I might actually that might be me being a little bit pessimistic, honestly, because there are some parts of this that I really, really did like, but Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne is not very good.
He doesn't get to be Bruce Wayne.
No, he does not get to be a three-dimensional character. He is very much a one-dimensional character throughout this entire fucking film, where he basically gets to be like, this is my conflict.
I wouldn't say one-dimensional entirely. I can see moments where, like, the gears are turning. I don't think that defines one-dimensional. I will say that he is very much in one zone.
Okay.
And he will not leave that zone.
My point, you know what? He is a three-dimensional character who does not get to do enough on screen. Like, all of the time, I feel it's just him looking sad and angry. And it's like, yes, I get that he's supposed to be sad and angry, but people aren't, like, even sad and angry people don't look and act like this all of the time. They have other emotions. They have other moments where they get to be actual people, and we never get to see any of that because the film is so focused on this oppressive, sour atmosphere. Which
he's dour all the time. Like, even when he is Bruce Wayne and trying to make, like, public appearances in other movies, you know. And I'm sure, you know, should this actually get a series and should they continue on with this continuation of Batman, they will play the idea of which one is the mask. And the answer is obviously Bruce Wayne is the mask. So, honestly, I kind of sit around there with you. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. My big thing is a little too long. I think I would much prefer this movie. Not that I don't think it's a good big screen experience, but if I could sit down on my couch and watch this movie, I think I'd be in a better place.
I will say I really think it works as a big screen experience because there's so much to take in at every moment that I'm really glad that I did see it in theaters. But yeah, that 3 hour runtime, I'm sorry.
That's the 20 minutes of trailers, and I have to go into this. The fucking DC trailer before the movie started was the biggest, like, oogiest sort of, please watch our stuff I've ever seen. It even ends with that cliche, so are you in moment? And I'm just like, gah! Gah! I mean, I'll probably watch some of these, but gah!
I mean, I'm looking forward to Black Adam. I'm kind of looking forward to the next Aquaman movie. I'm wondering how the Flash movie is going to be. I don't know. But point being, yeah, it's too long for me. And not that I don't like long movies. I can dig long movies.
We're getting old. Our bladders are smaller.
But I was going to say, like, there were some scenes, like some shots that, like, I felt like this could have been shorter. And also something happens in the movie that basically is like, hey, we're wrapping up. No, we're not. There's a whole nother act. Have fun, guys.
That was the part where I had to pee, and I had to wait that whole extra 45 minutes.
Oh, God. But yeah, so, and people also...
Oh, don't stay till the end. Do not stay till the end.
Do not stay till the end of the credits. You might look up on your phone, is there a post-credit scene? They will say yes. No, they're not. Just leave. Just go.
Get out of the theater.
I was about to say, good film. Looking forward to Nope. Anyway, little too long. It could have been shorter. I could have seen them cutting a bit. And if it was going to be this long, it would have been nice to have some more scenes of Bruce Wayne being a person outside of this all-consuming, I'm dark and angry and sour.
You know what more movies need? Intermissions. Like, if your movie is past the 3-hour mark, I think you need an intermission.
As much of a fucking old man as I'm going to sound agreeing with you, I agree. I would absolutely kill for an intermission. Just a moment where I can go use the bathroom and not have to worry about missing anything. Maybe get something to eat or something to drink, although we go to the Alamo Draft House, so we don't have to worry about that anyway. It's just, yes, it would be nice to be able to
3 hours,
leave.
just 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes to pee.
Yeah.
Just like a 3-hour movie, find a good break point.
But anyway, also, didn't love Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, not because he's not a good actor, but because it wasn't just given enough to work with. A little bit too long. Also, I wasn't that hot on the Riddler, as I've said before. I was not that hot on the Riddler in this interpretation of him and where they were going with him.
I thought he was a great introductory villain for this.
I like the story that he helps to tell. I love everything involving the Riddler's riddles, the plot. The corruption of that we get into. I love all of that. It's just the Riddler himself. Also, a certain scene in a certain place with a certain other character that seems really shoehorned into the film.
We're going to go into spoilers here. If you don't want to hear any spoilers for the Batman, recommend seeing it. It's pretty fucking fun.
I think I might actually land on an 8. You know what? Now, thinking about it, I've had way more nice things to say about this film than I will about the negatives that I'm about to go into. I think I'll settle on an 8 because, again, one of the best bat suits, amazing music, amazing visuals, really good themes.
Fantastic tone.
Yeah, fantastic tone. A lot going on that I really like here. So when I get into the stuff that I don't like, it's going to seem like a whiplash.
The only thing that keeps me from saying oh man, I'd go see this in theater again is the length.
Yeah.
The amount of time I have to allot to do that.
Also, you're right. The chemistry with Batman and Catwoman is fucking non-existent. In fact, there were times where I felt like, oh wow, yeah, he's this big intimidating figure and she's kind of attracted to that. I get that. But the way that the camera works and the way that the scenes are paced and the way that he acts and she acts, it's like, okay, I feel like there's something there, but it's not working.
Yeah. So yeah, spoilers from this point forward.
Yeah, spoilers. Time for spoils.
Go for it.
So we find out, so I want to get into the Riddler first, since he's kind of one of
that's your big crux.
Yeah. We find out that he's basically an extremist who's literally been going to forums.
Yep.
And talking with other extremists to take out all of Gotham's most corrupt. And what he lands on ultimately is, well, everything is so corrupt and so fucked that I need to literally wash it all away.
And I think I know where they want to go with the series with this. Because it feels like they want to do something with the Court of Owls.
Oh, you think the Court of Owls, really? I
mean, it's either the Court of Owls or it's the League of Assassins. It's one of those.
I mean, maybe. I don't...
both of those have a very big thing of controlling or washing away what they can't control.
Maybe. I don't know about that exactly because it doesn't. While that theme is present here,
I feel like they could very easily say it was the idea was planted by Ra's al Ghul or whoever the hell's the head of the league.
Oh, but I hate that though.
Yeah, but it's what they could do, and what they could do could build a franchise.
I do think that if Matt Reeves continues with the movies, which is actually a little bit up in the air because one, apparently Pattinson hated filming this. And part of that had to do with the fact that him and Matt Reeves did not get along.
I heard Well, I mean, I heard these stories at the same time as you, so yes. I have not verified.
Yeah, that's true. I really should have verified that before going on here and saying it. So if it's not true,
They fucking hate each other.
All right, Tyler says it.
okay.
Factoid.
But if it's not entirely true, if I'm just pulling this out of fucking thin air, fake news, I apologize. I'm propagating it.
Delete the thread.
Delete all of it. Just flood the studio. It's all too far gone.
Blow down the seawalls
Yep.
with van bombs.
But I will say this: if there's any reason that Robert Pattinson probably was not having a good time, one, that was a lot of makeup and that suit did not look comfortable, and two, I bet you, more than anything, Robert Pattinson wanted to be more expressive and have more scenes where he got to be a little bit more than what he was.
Especially
and he
after
was,
seeing him in The Lighthouse, where you can actually see, boy can act.
yes. Oh, Robert Pattinson could act before the Twilight ever drug him into the fucking depths. He's always been a good actor.
I've
So
only seen him in Twilight and The Lighthouse.
yeah,
And this now.
yeah, I feel like it's very possible that he wanted to do more, and Matt Reeves was like, no, I have a very strict vision that I want to stick to. And
You're sad boy now.
yes,
you
are
will be sad boy.
You are sad, and you are angry, and you are nothing else.
So be sad boy.
Yes. But yeah, when it comes to the Riddler, there's this, like, again, and part of this had to do with the fact that I was like, all right, where are you going with this guy? Like, I get that you're trying to, like, make all of his actions really, like, horrifying and all this, but I was waiting for this, like, I don't know, a moment to actually feel intimidated by him, to feel like, oh, wow, this guy's actually kind of scary. Never happened, not even once. Mostly because, again, when he shows up with a fucking mask, it looks like a gimp suit. Again, it's Buffalo Bill meets fucking Jigsaw, and I was not here for it. And that kind of sucks when you have the story of this dark, like, people, the corrupt officials of the GPD, of its politicians, these gangsters, all working together to drag Gotham down into its filth. And then you have this motherfucker, and it's encapsulated in that scene where I finally was like, okay, you really never wanted me to find him intimidating, when he turns on the fucking webcam and is like, hey everybody, I'd like to say thank you very much for subscribing.
That was meant specifically for his followers, though. Like that's kind of like him being his most genuine.
Yes, and I totally get that, but at that point, any factor that I had of him being an intimidating villain that I felt like I was supposed to be affected by in any manner went straight out the window.
I actually think that actually helped my opinion of the character. That's weird that we're diverging this far on that.
Well, and I think let me guess. Part of it was supposed to be the look at a mind that has been corrupted by being a social outcast, combined with noticing the corruption in the system slowly being mutated over time into somebody who's about to do something horrific.
It's not even that. It's the fact that this is him just being himself. Anytime he is talking to the media or like doing something that is outwardly expressed,
it's performative.
He's being performative, especially when he's finally in Arkham face to face with Batman. He is the Riddler. He is not Edward Nygma. He is a character from that point on. But when he's talking to the people on that stream, he's like genuinely, like he's talking to his men, the people that are going to show up and shoot people for him.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, no, thank you all for helping out. And I just want to say, like, it's a genuine human moment, which you have to realize as an actor is very important to realize that your character, while, insane and mad, is still a person.
And so I like that. I don't know what it was, because I absolutely love that interpretation. The way that you're talking about it, if hearing that on script, I'm like, fuck yes, let's go with that. I love that. And yet it didn't work for me, and I don't know why. Like, and maybe it was just kind of the fact that the tone of the film.
Is it because it felt like it was supposed to be a laugh moment? Like, it's supposed to be like, oh, thanks for dropping the 50 gifted?
Honestly, it kind of did. It did feel like I was supposed to laugh in that moment. And maybe I'm willing to accept that my read of the film as it was going on was not fully, like, I was not getting what they were serving me. Because that happens, Everyone's got different interpretations of film. That's why whenever I go into any of these, when I'm talking about film, I always have to approach it from, hey, look, this is just the interpretation that I got as I was watching it, and I'm going to try and, provide as much
of your experience,
my experience as I can to inform why I felt this way.
Right.
Because, there are some people out there who will say the film is awful, and there are people out there who will say the film was amazing, and I don't think either of them are inherently correct or incorrect. So for me, yeah, I can see why you felt that way. I understand your interpretation. I like your interpretation. But as I was watching, there was just so many moments with the tone, the music, the script. I was like, oh, and not to mention the yelling, these moments where that obvious sickness inside of him would come out, and yelling and anger, and okay, yeah, I get what you're trying to do here, but those moments did feel highly performative when they were happening, or they felt like bad acting of someone with a mental disorder. And also, and unfortunately, the Batman, all of the Batman has had a bit of a rocky history with presenting people with mental disorders. And by rocky, I mean bad.
Yeah, it doesn't help that they, all get shipped off to an asylum, which is basically just a supermax prison for supervillains.
Which is almost it. I sometimes feel like Batman either is really nailing its social commentary or getting this close but missing in a very vital way to its commentary about mental disorders, about the fact that we don't treat them very well.
The weird thing is I feel like Flash always deals with it better.
You're remembering that scene from Justice League, aren't
that
you?
scene's fucking great, where he just shows up, hey buddy, have you been taking your pills? No, they make my brain fuzzy. You gotta take your pills, all right, man? Okay.
That scene might seem a little bit condescending to some people, but I do think it is a very...
He's talking to a guy that car bombs children,
yeah,
so...
But it's also a matter of this person is not fully in control of their mental faculties. They have an issue, they have a sickness, and it's the reason we don't execute these people, because we know that part of this is not their fault, and they deserve a chance to get better, to face up against their demons. And Arkham is one of the worst examples of how to deal with these things. Not only does it treat a lot of its people like fucking animals, but it also very rarely actually approaches the topic of their mental disorder in a good way. So I like...
And they actually touch on that in the movie with the whole, because the entire movie centers around a plot of corruption that leads back to a program that was started in goodwill to try to better the city, but all of that money was squandered and ended up going to the worst people that it could have gone to just through corruption. And part of that is the fact that, the Waynes and the Arkhams helped make Gotham what it is. And so that money is not going to the places it needs to go to actually make the world better.
So I love this story. Hey, why doesn't Batman just use his money to make things better? Sometimes it's not that easy. We actually see that Thomas Wayne wanted to try and do that, but because of one circumstance or another, he was killed, and then the money that he left was misused. What a great, interesting, complex dilemma there. I love that. Because certainly I am Mr. Tax the Rich, but I also know it's not just about we need more money. You cannot throw money at a problem and expect that to make things better.
Yeah, you need to put the money in the right places. And most of the time when that money is collected and put around, it doesn't go to the right place.
It doesn't.
It goes to people who want to profiteer.
And I really, a big part of this film is really taking a good long look at just the seedy underbelly of Gotham and how it got there and what is the answer. How do you make things better? And so I have been avoiding this, and I wish I could continue to avoid it, because the fact is I do not like getting political in these. I don't. As much as a lot of people who might follow my Twitter.
It's very hard not to, because this movie does trend towards a few political messages.
I mean, it is, because it talks about police corruption, it talks about political corruption, it talks about laws and the way that the city operates. Hell, one of its big things is oh yeah, we need a new mayor, we need better cops. it's going to be sort of impossible not to get a little political here, and I hate that because it usually just muddies the conversation about the movie at large, or whatever subject we're talking about. But a lot of this movie kind of hinges on a very, I'd say, misguided idea of what the city ultimately needs in some ways. Like, oh, you know, hey, look at all this police corruption. Look at all this political corruption. Look at, and it's top down. It's top down and bottom up. It's coming from both angles. You have like a lot of people who are in the pockets of really corrupt people who do not want the best for the city. They want what's best for them.
And that's how you end up with these costumed anarchists.
It is. Because at some point, the corruption is so deep-seated and so hard to fight that what are you supposed to do? How do you fight back against a system that is so hell-bent on keeping you locked into place and unable to fight back against corruption? And that's why, and that's why we get the Riddler and his whole brigade of people. It's why he starts murdering these politicians and these officers, because like, and again, the film portray like, oh, this mayor might turn things around. Hey, spoiler for all you at home, politicians don't give a shit about you, okay? And even the local politicians can do their best, but if you are ingrained in a structure that at all sides is corrupt and focused on keeping people in power who are meant to serve corporations over people, you are rarely going to make any great progress without real action. And I'm not saying go out and fucking burn down a fucking government building. That is not what I'm saying, and I'm not implying. But what I am saying is trying to paint the picture of we just need better cops and better politicians is really fucking trite. And it kind of feels a little bit like the film leans heavily onto this, like, no, we have to make sure that this black female mayor, who can definitely turn things around, survives to the end, because that's the first step, is getting the one right person where they need to be. And don't worry, there are still a ton of really good cops who are willing to do the right thing. Yeah, good. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm glad that we have established that. Nope, don't worry. It is really just a few bad apples.
This is honestly super tainted by your own cynicism. And
Yes,
I understand your
wholeheartedly, I am incredibly cynical about the entire system because I have paid attention for the last several years and I have seen corruption at every single level. So when I see these things pop up in film, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I wish it were this simple. I wish it were really just as easy as we just need the right politicians in the right places, and we need to get rid of these few bad cops.
In some ways, it's right though. In some ways, where if you get the right people, the people that aren't willing to throw away their moral compass for profit, who are admittedly extremely rare, I think that is the right thing. Oh, and that is the civil way to get out of the quagmire.
Well, notice what happened when Thomas Wayne tried to come forward? He got shot. He got murdered. Mm-hmm. And nobody, and after that happened, what happened? All the money that he was putting into Gotham got misused by corrupt cops, other corrupt politicians, and the mob. We see that when a good man tries to do something, even a powerful man, he is not beyond reproach. He is not beyond taking out of the system. And
So you're saying we need a vigilante to go out there and really take care of all this shit for real. We need Batman. Where's Batman?
I mean, where is Batman?
Where is Batman? Who is Batman?
But that's why it's when we see these sorts of topics come up in film, I understand they're trying to sell a simpler story, and I get that. But it's like, please, I'm begging you, if you're going to go into these subjects, please don't paint this stuff as so, I don't know.
If you want me to dip into your cynicism there, the reason they need that message is because they're all part of the same machine that's there to make money and milk that money out of the people that are going to buy tickets.
And it's sort of interesting, that you have this masked vigilante whose idea is wait, no, fear was not the answer. I just inspired people to do violent things. I need to be a symbol of hope. I need to be somebody who leads us out of the quagmire. And I thought that was really interesting because I like the idea of sometimes no.
Especially with the visuals just after that, him literally holding the torch and leading people through. I thought that shot was fucking striking.
That is gorgeous. That shot is beautiful. Yeah, this film is real pretty.
I mean, it made me forgive the fact that this is one of those You know, I guess for lack of any better word, it's a cinema sins moment where the city is flooding. Let's all run into the lowest part of this elevated building.
I believe part of that was actually supposed to be that since it was the stadium, they were actually supposed to get in the seats because that was actually going to provide them a leverage. It was a place where they could put enough people that would get them high up enough.
In the bowl of the stadium, the lowest part?
They weren't supposed to be in the lowest part.
That's where they ended up.
Yes, because the fucking guy started shooting. Remember that?
You mean the guys that started shooting from the top, which looks down into the bowl, and then, nobody ran to the sides?
Yes, because when you have a bunch of people panicking, they don't know what they're doing, and then they freak out, and then the water started to creep in, and then stuff started to break.
I guess that's true enough, but man, I'm just thinking like.
When that flooding happened, people weren't supposed to stay down there, but something happened that caused people to panic, and then not everybody, by the way. Notice that it was a group of people that ended up still down there. Most of them ran to the seats or ran out of the stadium. They weren't supposed to be down there. Like they were literally trying to corral them into one spot that would have, if people had focused and done what they were supposed to do in an orderly fashion, would have been safe.
Okay, remove the sin counter.
Yeah. But no, there's a whole lot going on there. And I know I brought some of my own personal politics into it earlier. And hey, if you're coming here for my opinion on this particular thing, I'm gonna bring my own personal politics in. And if anybody disagrees, I completely understand. I'm merely going for my own interpretation of both reality and how this film decides to tackle really serious subject matter. So ultimately, my perspective on this is that, yeah, I really wish that, like, I feel like 75% of how it wants to tackle a lot of the subject matter is acceptable comic book stuff. There was just other stuff that I'm like, hey, this is a little weird and rocky and maybe not exactly rooted in reality, but comic book film, so why am I asking for stuff to be rooted in reality, right?
Yeah. One of my favorite things in the movie was just, like, looking at how the different characters all read Batman.
Oh, right.
Because that was, like, a big part of it. Was the Riddler's motivation and why he wanted to play the game with Batman was because he saw Batman as a reflection of himself. Somebody who was an orphan, who grew up, like, and I don't remember exactly how he knew that Batman was an orphan, and I think he said it was one of those, it's the way you act, it's the way you present yourself or something, one of those things that you just kind of have to accept. But, you know, an orphan that grew up in a city and wants to see the city change. So Riddler's like, we're going to play this game together, and you're going to help me, and I'll help you. And that's how we're going to make the city better.
By the way, I really liked that. I really liked the idea that the
Riddler thought he was playing a co-op game.
Yeah, that was great. I really dug on that. The idea that this entire time he's like, oh, he's my guy on the inside. He's helping me. He's doing exactly what I need. And honestly, he was. The Batman kept doing exactly what he wanted.
But it was all inadvertent. And
yeah.
it did have that great Riddler moment. The Riddler moment that you always kind of want. That you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were moment. And I thought that scene was actually really fun.
Yeah, oh. It was. Until it led to a whole other stretch of the film.
Yeah.
Like, the moment that he realizes he needs to rip up the floor, I was like, oh no. And what he does is he literally uncovers another 30 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, please. I mean, the action in that scene is great. There's some great visuals. Everything in that last 30 minutes is so fucking good. But it's 30 minutes after 2.5 hours.
It's like 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, it's a whole last fucking third of the film after 2 fucking hours. And it's like everything else had been wrapped up, but now...
Yeah, I was already done with my popcorn by that point. They give you a big fucking bowl there.
Yeah, at the Alamo Draft House, lots of popcorn. But like, I remember, and I felt like everyone in our group agreed. Like the moment it hit that scene, it's like, oh God.
Because at that point, I'm sitting there and, you know, all the 3 or 4 glasses of water I drank would hit me. And I was like, okay, we're good. Uh-oh.
There's a reason I actively avoided drinking much at all through that film. I was like, all right, I'm 2 drinks maximum throughout this film because I'm not leaving and missing anything. But
then you have to take into account the half hour of trailers and stuff.
Well, that's why I went to go use the bathroom during the trailers, because I do not give a shit. I'll see them on YouTube.
But yeah, I love the way that people interpreted Batman, like Riddler's misinterpretations, but Catwoman kind of had him like dead on. It's like, you're a fucking rich kid, aren't you?
Yeah, I love... God damn it, Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman in this is so fucking good. Every line, every moment, she is the best. She has so much atmosphere. Every scene she's in, she's owning it. God.
And she played it off very well. It's like, she doesn't really give a shit who's under the mask. She knows who she's looking at.
That's because she's looking at who he is.
Yeah.
At this point, he is the Batman. That is who he is. He even, in the very beginning, he flat out says, like, I don't care about any of my Bruce Wayne shit. Why should I care about any of my Bruce Wayne shit? I just want to be the Batman. Alfred, I just want to go out in my bat suit and beat people up. Why do I have to go?
I'm a nocturnal animal.
Yeah, I like it. It does kind of feel like I don't want to clean my room. I want to dress as a bat and beat up criminals. God. Ugh.
One thing they do a real bad job of is actually like kind of giving you a sense of where you are in the city. I didn't realize that Wayne Manor was on a fucking skyscraper until near the end of the movie.
Oh my God, I feel like an idiot. Like, I was talking with Stefan, he's like, yeah, they showed it early on in the film. I'm like, how did I miss that? Yeah, I didn't know that Wayne Manor was in that fucking tower. I didn't. And I felt like a fucking moron, like, after I heard it. Because, honestly, when I saw it, I'm like, that's where Bruce Manor is?
Bruce Manor.
Bruce Wayne Manor.
Wayne Manor.
Wayne?
It's just Wayne Manor.
Oh, yeah. Wayne Manor. Why did I say Bruce Manor? Yeah.
I don't
know. Oh, yeah, Wayne Manor. Yeah, wait, that's where Wayne Manor is? I felt like a fucking moron after Stefan told me that it's established early in the film. But obviously...
Especially because it doesn't make much sense because the Waynes and the Arkhams are supposed to be like founders of the city, which would mean that they would definitely have land.
I mean, they probably do. It's just, it doesn't have to be in that immediate spot, right?
Exactly. Like, you wouldn't build your, the first building you build in the city wouldn't be your own house at the top of a skyscraper.
I will say, I actually kind of wished we'd seen more of Wayne Manor.
A bit.
We get to see parts of it, but I never feel like there's that moment where we really get to see what it looks like as a whole. Like, we never get to take it all in.
Bruce Wayne gets maybe like 15 minutes of screen time in this movie, maybe 20.
And I do like some of his scenes. I earlier made it seem like I didn't like Bruce Wayne at all in this movie. I actually really loved the scene, specifically in the fucking, was it the church? I think it was a church.
Yeah.
For the funeral. Yeah. Like, there's parts of that I like, even if he's not able to emote as much as I wished he was able to. I like that moment where, like, the fucking lady, the mayor, the prospective mayor, comes up and is like, hey, what the fuck, man? I've been trying to get a hold of you. Like, we can make the city better together. Work with me on this. And I did like that. I don't want, like... I do like the presentation they have of her in this film of, hey, we got to make things better, but I need the powerful people in Gotham on my side to do that. And that it also shows Bruce that he could be doing more if he wasn't always obsessed with being the vengeance.
Yeah, because he and Alfred have like a kind of a one-off conversation where Alfred's like, look, your family's legacy is falling to fucking waste. The company is failing because they don't have anybody to tell them what to do. We aren't entirely sure what Wayne Industries does in this world also.
Yeah, I mean, we're just supposed to assume that's what they've been doing in all the other films. They make shit.
Yeah, but apparently they don't have anybody that knows what the fuck they're doing, or maybe all that money is just going out in the pockets of the board or something like that.
I think it basically is. I think, like, they don't spend at any time at all.
They spend zero time.
All you just know is that he's a rich kid, and that's all they care about telling you so much. Which, yeah, okay,
we don't have a Lucius Fox, which, again, kind of fine. It's implied that Bruce has been tuning his own shit, which,
by the way, I love the use of gadgets in this film. It's just enough of them to not feel like it's over relying on them, but like, I also am happy to see a Batman that has a bunch of gadgets.
Yeah, his weird contact lenses are the ones that I'm like, his sci-fi future.
I love those.
They're really cool, but they're the one thing that he has that I'm like, I don't know. Out of all the things you have, I don't buy this the most.
Oh, and that's, I mean, look, the part of the Batman is that some of the shit that he has is just higher,
yeah,
like bigger, more sci-fi than a lot of the others.
Which I'm fine with, but it's like the one gadget, because, you know, he has tasers, he has the Batarang on his chest, which I think actually works. I know a lot of people think it's kind of goofy, but...
They do?
I remember that way early on when the design of it was shown, was like, these are the guns that were melted down, that were like used to. I'm like, so I remember a lot of people kind of like making like, oh, so edgy, so blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever. I think it looks good.
Look, within like the reason I was worried about it when I first heard about it was that I was like, oh, is that going to be the whole film? Is it going to be that kind of film? But after seeing it, I'm like, you know what? No, this works.
They don't even mention it in the film. It's just something that
they don't. And so knowing about that, I'm like, actually, that's kind of neat.
It's Dark Souls lore. You have to read into it.
I'm glad there wasn't a moment where we get to find out that, in fact, the bat symbol that he can detach and reattach, which also, very cool, works as a knife. Don't know if it works as a batarang. Never found out. I do like the fact that it is
also a more dense shield.
Yeah. And the fact that it is the guns of the, the gun. It's just the gun that's been, like, separated and melted down of that killed his parents. That's actually really kind of dark, poetic, and considering they don't like harp on it, no, that works. I'm into it. It doesn't imply that this is going to be a hyper dark and gritty and like,
which it kind of already is.
I mean, it is dark and gritty.
It's very dark and gritty.
But it never felt like it was laughably so. I never felt like, wow, you really wanted this noir atmosphere so bad. The only time it happened, and I hate to say this because half the time I really liked him, Gordon.
Yeah, I love the actor.
I love the actor. I love him half the time in this movie, but there are a few times where I'm like,
he does this
like this all the
he
time.
does this thing. You gotta be talking like real Batman stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's this. He does this head motion so much. It's hard not to see, because the first time you see it is when he's putting on an act. And then you see it from that point on all the fucking time. And it's like, oh no, that's just a mannerism.
I don't know if this is something that was intentional, but he keeps saying, we gotta get out of here. We gotta go.
We gotta go.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's like, look, it's almost like I want him to come home and like talk like a normal person, like, hey, how you doing? I'm having a good time. But anytime Batman shows up, he puts on the voice because he feels like he has to be cool around Batman. That's what it thought. Honestly, it felt like he was trying his best to be cool because the Batman's there.
His cool new friend is in town. All of his corrupt, stupid brothers are trying to get him to like feel shame about it.
I just wanted them to be like, yo, Gordon, why are you putting on that voice, dude?
What voice?
What voice are you talking about?
The thing that, like, here's one thing in the tone that I wasn't entirely huge on. And I always like Batman a bit more when the only person he's working with is Gordon. He spends a lot of time around other cops in this movie. Like, he literally walks onto crime scenes as they're doing it. To me, Batman is the guy that shows up to the crime scene after everybody is gone so he can, like, look at shit himself.
Well, that's good and bad because to do so means that evidence is going to be removed from the scene. And
Yeah, but he has a guy that can get it for him.
Yeah, but I'm really glad they didn't do that because that would have just added more time and also like cut down on a lot of the interactions of him with the other police officers. I actually really liked that he would show up on the scene because it showed him.
This is a personal thing.
Well, and I see what you're talking about, and he does that. He does that a couple times. He returns to the scene later.
Yeah,
to check on
he'll
stuff.
return to check on stuff, but it's weird to me when like, especially because. And I know they're trying to draw this whole idea of, like, you know, the cops aren't really sure about him, and you're not sure which cops are unsure about him because they're corrupt, and which ones are unsure about him because they see him as a fucking vigilante, which he is.
Yeah, and it's a little bit weird that the police are working with a dude who's literally breaking the law all of the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's weird, but at the same time, it seems like Gotham PD is so under, like, I was gonna say understaffed. It had a lot of officers in that one fucking scene. Like, wow.
Everybody was in that dude's office.
Yeah, everybody was in that fucking building at that time.
It was really, like, honestly, that's actually just really bad protocol, because there are way too many people there for that crime scene.
Well, no, I was gonna talk about, like, that one scene where the Batman's escaping. There's, like, 300 officers.
Well, yeah, but that's in the police station.
I know.
That's where they make cops.
I know. They mass produce them,
But
but
they spawn from.
I know, but it's like, wow, was everybody in the station that day?
Their response time was impeccable.
Yeah,
that's the unbelievable part, is that everybody was like, I don't even think like a radio call went out or anything. Like, somebody just mentioned, oh shit, he's getting away. And then everybody on every floor is like, fucking Batman!
You just see a fucking human, like a fucking tidal wave of human bodies like filling up. It's just, it was a little funny to me. Not a big deal. Not even the point. Not the point.
Also, still a fun scene.
Yeah. I'm so glad we actually get to see the grappling hook. Like, I was a little bit afraid that we wouldn't get to see the grappling hook used like a grappling hook, but it absolutely is. But it's also used in great ways for combat. By the way, the action, I know we said it a little bit earlier, action in this film, real good. I love the fight scenes. I loved his use of the gadgets in those fight scenes. Real good shit.
Fight choreography is pretty good, and it's not cut in a way that I feel nauseous or unable to really tell what's going on. And biggest shock beyond shock of everything for me in a DC film, even the night scenes where it is dark, I can tell what's happening. Amazing.
Oh yeah, when they said that this was going to be the darkest Batman film, I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to see shit. No, I'm able to make out everything. Remarkable, spectacular.
Especially for modern DC, where so many of their climaxes turn into this muddled mess of what the fuck is happening?
I don't know. I don't know if I have that problem very often.
I'm thinking specifically of Suicide Squad, Aquaman.
OG Suicide Squad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aquaman gets, like, because they're fighting in a fucking trench in the middle of a downpour at night. So that's another one where it's like, okay, what's happening? Where?
Yeah, the visual communication in this film is real good. Oh my god, that final, like, as much as I really dreaded having to go through another 30 minutes, god, that fight in the stadium, holy shit.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, it gives you that Arkham game moment. Which, again, I also feel like you can actually add the Arkham games in general as a big inspiration to some of these movies now.
Oh, if those games weren't an inspiration for what, like, some of the way that Batman is utilized, like, in the action scenes and the snooping scenes, I'd be surprised as fuck. Like, I was kind of expecting the second time he goes to the second time he goes to the club as Batman, when the guy walks outside and Batman sneaks by and closes the door behind him. First of all, really like that. Means he learned something from the last time he went in there, guns a-blazing.
Don't go in there just bats a-punching.
I will say, I kind of was expecting, like, him to get brought up by the fucking, I was kind of hoping for that, but it still worked. Also, really want to touch on this because it's one of my favorite parts of the film. The Batman is not allowed into the club.
Bruce Wayne is.
Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah, so you get that dichotomy, which I really hoped they were going to play with more. Like, again, while I do think the movie is too long as it is, it really could have benefited from having some actual Bruce Wayne stuff, like him trying to figure out what is good for Bruce and what is good for the Bat.
So one of the best Bruce scenes is actually when he goes to Falcone and he's like, "Hey, motherfucker, did you kill my dad?" And then we get that whole scene where Falcone lies to him, which, by the way, it isn't good storytelling to have a scene where your character learns something that devastates them only for the literal next scene to undo it. That was not great.
He lies, but he also tells parts of the truth.
Well, that's what a good liar does.
Yeah, he tells him what happened. And honestly, the lies are lies of omission. He left out the part where his dad told him not to kill the guy. He said, like, basically, he said, like, Thomas wanted me to take care of it. So, you go there, you try to buy somebody off, but sometimes it's just not going to work. And then you got to take things in your own hands.
But yeah, and it's really a matter of framing an omission that he does.
Yes.
But the problem, again, I don't have a problem with either of the scenes that we get. I have a problem with the fact that they are smack dab next to each other, because you have this great. Wait, hold on. Was there the scene of mourning between them? I think there was a scene of mourning between them.
There is sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like, but there's a scene that is completely wordless of Bruce going to his dad's room and looking at that stuff, and then he goes to Alfred, and then, oh no, don't worry, it wasn't actually a problem. Okay, that's.
I feel like there was more scenes in between. Honestly,
there really wasn't. There was the scene of him, like that wordless scene of him going to his dad's room, looking at the stuff, which
I thought was really cool. I love the idea that he keeps that room chained up and locked and shut to make sure that everything stays as it was.
Oh, it's literally locking away your trauma. And yeah, no, this movie does so many things right. It does so many things great. Like, yeah, you're right. Chaining up his dad's room, keeping it away from him, fantastic. I really like that. But again, that scene is sandwiched by the two big conflicts, and the conflict is easily undone by Alfred just saying what actually happened, but then leads to a scene that actually got me really teary-eyed. Because I was waiting for this moment to really kind of bring Bruce's conflict to the light. And in this moment, it really is starkly said, you need human connections, man. You cannot keep pushing people away. When he grabs Alfred's hand, I'm like, fuck! Yes, okay, awesome, stupendous, loved it.
Yeah, they did 3 seasons of Gotham in those in those 2 scenes.
Yeah, like, now, I don't love everything they did with Alfred, mostly just because I feel like
They don't give him enough time.
they don't give him and Bruce enough time.
But I do think they used Alfred well.
Yeah,
I think
no.
they used him very well because, you know, while he's very like, you shouldn't be fucking doing this. This isn't what your parents wanted from you. But then at the same time, he's enabling because, you know, he gets that cryptograph from Bruce and then he just starts solving it like a crossword puzzle for him.
But I
love that.
Yeah, I also love the fact that he's like, wait, hold on, use only those letters and then drive.
Yeah.
And also,
Thumb drive.
people say this movie's not funny. They're wrong.
It was clever as shit. Like I didn't realize. Okay, I realized as they got to the car and then he pulled out the thumb drive and I'm like, that's where it is. Such. This thing had my sense of humor. I get a very macabre sense of humor.
They were even able to do the Batman disappears on Gordon scene, and I didn't see it coming. Mm-hmm. Like when he turns to him and he's gone, I'm like, they did the thing, and they did it in a way that I didn't see how. Like
you didn't expect it. It actually just happened organically.
Yes, and which
didn't feel forced.
That never doesn't work. Like, it can be done poorly, but if it's done well, it always works. Batman being gone after having a conversation is always just an effective way to, like, communicate the way that Batman, like, operates. And it works very well here. Also, as I said before, like, this movie is funny. It's not laugh a minute. It's not Marvel funny. Their characters aren't left to improv for like 5 fucking minutes. And it's not quips.
It's not a James Gunn script.
Well, no, James Gunn is even better about this because at least James Gunn has a lot of structure to his conversations and his jokes.
There are times in Peacemaker where he just lets people go.
Okay, well, and that's I'd say probably...
Honestly, I think it works 80% of the time.
But I really like... I really did like the intentional comedy in this movie, especially with the Penguin. The Penguin is never too serious. He's never too intimidating. He is exactly the character he is supposed to be at all times. I actually really dug that. Like, he is like, damn, like...
They've set a really good foundation, I think, for what could potentially be a string of Batman movies that could even possibly lead into a wider...
I was actually really
reboot of the DCU.
I was actually really surprised they killed Falcone.
I'm not too shocked. You don't have much left to do with him.
It's true. Like,
you kind of told every story that every Batman story has told with Falcone in that movie.
I can agree. Like, I was surprised, but I wasn't upset. I felt like, any more Falcone in any of the future films, he would have nothing to do.
The only thing they could have done, possibly, is actually do a long Halloween at some point, but the one thing DC does the one thing that Marvel does that DC doesn't do is that DC seems to like to actually make its own plots as they go. Marvel does that to an extent, but a lot of Marvel's events are based off of big events in the comics.
Yeah. I don't know. Ultimately, my point, I thought Penguin was hilarious. I thought the movie was funny. Thumb drive worked on every level. I love the fact that you even had to use the thumbprint.
They spend way too much fucking time on Rata Alata.
That sucked.
I was fucking tired of that, especially like because it's like, rat with wings must mean a stool pigeon. Why the fuck would he mean that? Oh, clearly it means a penguin. No, maybe it means a falcon. It's a fucking bat. A rat with wings. bat.
Yeah, I have nothing. I have nothing for Rada. That was
Radalada.com though, Cash.
all that shit needed to be fucking. I'm sorry, that needed to be.
That could have been trimmed a lot. They spent so much time on that one thing.
Yeah, not a fan. I didn't like that as a. I didn't like that as a.
Maybe smarter viewers than me have actually pulled some symbolism out of that I can't. But
Now, everyone I know who's seen them film hated the Rada stuff too. So maybe there's somebody out there who really liked it.
tell us what makes Rata Alata.
Yeah. But that being said, I do like how things develop throughout the film with a lot of those riddles, even if the Rada stuff was fucking tortured by the end of it. But yeah, you know, it's weird. I felt like I'd have more negative things to say about the film ultimately. A lot of the negative things I have to say is that Riddler just did not work for me. The all of the stuff with Catwoman and Batman, it came so close all the time too to being, I really like this, but more of it's left on paper for me than it is actually in practice.
The thing is, with their chemistry, well, I don't think it's like good. I don't think it's offensive either. I think it's fine. Like for what the movie is and where Batman is in his emotional journey, I think it's perfectly fine for where they're at.
I feel like if they wanted to really establish that he was emotionally unavailable, maybe like I felt like they were overselling it with languishing on those shots of them looking at each other and talking to each other. I feel like it would actually have been better if they were cut down a little bit, made a little bit faster. Like that's kind of my problem with this film in general, is that a lot of it is they want to establish this tone and this mood, and I don't want to be ADHD about it, okay? I'm not trying to be ADHD. I liked some of the scenes where we really just kind of rest on shots and have these moments where like characters are looking at each other and really letting things sink in. But it felt like they did that all of the time, like instead of in the moments that really needed it, especially with the Catwoman and Batman stuff. Where Catwoman, and part of that is the fact that Catwoman has so much charisma. Zoe Kravitz is like really bringing it in every scene. She really fills up the atmosphere. And so when she's crashing up against Batman, it's like, ooh, this is not a synergy. This is like awkward and weird.
It's like you're throwing an acid trip at a beige wall.
So, and again, there are some scenes where that stoicism for Batman works, like is fantastic. But yeah. And then that whole like last fucking third happens where, again, I really
there's a lot of good in it, but it's also an additional 45 minutes of a movie.
Do we talk about that scene now? The one that seemed like it was absolutely mandated by the studio?
I'm actually not entirely sure which scene you're referring to, so please.
What?
I'll probably recognize it when
what is incredibly what is more valuable the less you have?
Yeah, like you feel like that was mandated by the studio, that phone conversation?
The phone conversation. That
was
the scene in Arkham.
Oh, that.
Yes.
Right. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the riddles with the phone with the hostage.
No.
That the sequel bait?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, is that supposed to be the Joker? They heavily imply that it could be either the Joker or Dent, but they give so many illusions.
It's not
a clown.
No, it's not. It's not Dent.
You see half of this guy's scarred face. That's all.
He literally says they
Clown.
think of you as a clown. He does the laugh. That laugh is so fucking obviously supposed to be.
I felt that, but I also feel like, it feels weird that they would do that in. God, if that was studio mandated and that is where they want to go and that is the Joker, I don't know.
You know that's Druig from.
I do know that.
Yeah, which interesting casting. Not sure I'm in love with it, honestly. Weird. That's kind of weird to me.
It's bad because that's not how you want to introduce the Joker.
No,
that's the part that bugs. That's the part that bugs me and makes me kind of want to be like, that's not the Joker.
I'm sorry. Can we go back to the Joker being a fucking clown? Can we go back to him being like this big showman who loves to do these crazy things instead of, oh, look at me, I'm so twisted, I look like a freak. I'm sorry. That version of the Joker's been done to death.
There are a lot of ways you can do the Joker. And you know what? I'm up for any artist's interpretation. If this is the way the studio wants to go, okay. I'm not going to say no, but I will say that this is a poor way to introduce it if that's the way you're going.
I agree. It is not a great way to introduce your Joker in a what feels completely detached scene from the rest of the film. Like, if that weren't there, I don't feel like any of the, like...
You'd lose nothing.
You'd lose nothing. In fact, I think you'd gain something from not having a, like, weird cutaway. Like, because everyone's gonna know that's the Joker. So it serves the purpose of setting him up, but, like, you could have done that in a million better ways.
Definitively means this is not in the James Gunn verse. Because that Joker is the same Joker from the Suicide Squad.
Well, no, this couldn't be the James Gunn verse because, yeah, that is the same. That's the same Batman. That's Batfleck. So no, this is a new. This isn't related to, I think, any of the other.
It's gonna be really weird to see where this goes and how they try to make this work, because the James Gunn stuff is really working. Like, it's really working for them.
Yeah, I really like James Gunn's interpretation of Suicide Squad. I haven't seen Peacemaker, so I can't say much about it. I've only seen one specific scene where he might have dealt with some other characters, but I don't know. I think I've been a little bit harder on the film than I wanted to be, because I'm still finding a lot of stuff that I really like here, but I remember my actual enjoyment watching the film was not nearly as positive as what I've taken away from it. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that kind of like puts me at odds with, I feel like a lot of these other, some of the reviewers that I really like, that I vibe with, that I get, like, really liked the film in ways that I don't. And I'm like, that's caused me to really kind of take a step back and reflect on how I'm looking at the movie. That's why I like critics sometimes. The ones that I like, when they like something or dislike something I dislike or like respectively, it always gives me that moment where I could be like, I wonder, what is there something I didn't consider? But I can just say that my experience watching the film felt way more lackluster than I felt like the whole was. Like, the sum of its parts, does not create this cohesive whole for me, Because again,
I can definitely understand that, because I mean, there's a certain fatigue to a lot of things right now, and the fact that you're in this weird vibe with the DC stuff right now in general, like, you're not sure what the hell's going on with it. You're not sure even if you should be invested in this, because you're not sure that this is where they're going, because you don't know what the fuck they're doing. They have so many different things going on where I guess Jason Momoa is still going to be Aquaman, Ezra Miller's still going to be the Flash, but you also have like the James Gunn Suicide Squad stuff going, and now this, which is completely totally different from everything else, but really works.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting moving forward. Honestly, what I would prefer more than anything is that I don't need a connected universe between Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Flash.
No, but it'd be cool to see it done right.
I mean, it would be cool to see it done right, but like, I'm so tired of superhero stuff in the first place. Like, if we're gonna do the superhero stuff, just tell good stories. Stop focusing on trying to build your fucking cinematic universe.
Another fad will come along eventually.
Yeah. I mean, but I know that I'm not the first person to say this, though.
God, no.
I know there are a lot of people out there who feel...
There's massive superhero fatigue.
Yeah.
Massive.
Which is why, again, when I see a new MCU film, I'm just praying, like, okay, just tell a good story, okay? Tell a different story from the other ones. Like, it's why I loved the first 2/3 of Shang-Chi so much. I really felt like, hey, cool, you're telling a very different story.
It's why I like this, because it's not just your generic popcorn action. It's a detective movie.
Yeah.
It's something different. And it didn't really matter to me that it involved a superhero. The superhero elements of it worked for me. But the fact that it was telling a story and not just, hey, here's Batman and he's gonna go punch the Riddler.
He does that, though. Oh, he tries to do that.
I don't think he punches the Riddler.
I mean, he tries.
He punches glass.
Yeah,
really hard.
He wants to punch the Riddler.
You also don't really get a Robert Pattinson, like, shirt off moment either. I don't know if...
We do? What?
You get
Yeah, we totally do.
you get it from the back. Like it's only
Yeah,
from.
No, you see it from the front too.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, we get at least one.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. You'd remember.
Yeah, I mean, I don't find Robert Pattinson incredibly attractive. Like, I'm not like, oh, Mr. Pattinson.
I just, for whatever reason, I don't remember them having that like, oh, he's fucking ripped moment.
Well, that's because he's not.
Oh, that'd do it then.
Yeah, no, like, and look, this is also something, oh my god, I've seen this so much and I want to address it outright. I don't give a shit if Robert Pattinson is fucking ripped. Yes, Ben Affleck was a fucking Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
like,
he went hard. Like he had a workout scene in that movie because of that.
yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, as a dude, as somebody who's into muscly men, oh fuck. But, that being said, I don't need my superheroes and I don't need my Batman to be giant fucking walls of muscle. And there were people out there who were like, oh, you know, Robert Pattinson, he's so lithe. And I'm like, okay, like, he's gonna be wearing the suit 90% of the time anyway, and he looks fantastic in the suit.
He does.
Like, oh, by the way, I didn't point this out, the fucking, like, the collar, I don't know what that's called. Like, the fucking thing that he has, the
neck guard kind of thing.
Yeah, the neck guard. That looks so good. I love that look. It really kind of sells the whole Dark
It lets
Knight
him move
thing.
his neck.
Yeah, I love it.
And because the headpiece isn't so tight, he's not walking around like
fucking...
Like, well, he's not walking around with his mouth open because his ears are compressed.
Yeah, no,
Which is what happened with Bale.
Yeah, I love it. I loved all of it. But... Oh my god, what was I saying? I went under the bat suit. Oh yeah, I don't need Robert Pattinson to put on 50 pounds of muscle. I don't need him to torture his fucking body for this role. Why do we expect people to put themselves through the fucking ringer for these movies? I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this outright. They're people. Celebrities are people. Let them be fucking people. Don't make them go, like, just because one actor will put himself through hell to look and sound.
Well, it's because they have the ability to do it.
Yes, but that
They have
doesn't.
the time, the money,
But that doesn't always mean that they should. It doesn't mean that it's healthy. It doesn't mean it's good for them physically or mentally. And I would much, much, much prefer that people are taken, like, if you want to go through a couple weeks of combat training and stunt training, cool, that's fine. I think that's good. Especially if you're gonna be in an action film and you wanna be able to be a part of all these action scenes, being capable is good. That should be something actors are doing because they want to do it and they wanna get better and they want to be good for these films. But this idea that in these films, if they haven't put themselves through literal hell to be ready for them, I think that's an unhealthy expectation to put on these actors.
It very much is, but like from the studio's standpoint, one, sex sells.
Oh, yes.
Two, from an audience standpoint, you want to believe that when somebody is getting punched in the face by a demigod, they actually look like they could take it and dish it back.
And I get that. But I also want audiences to stop expecting like these incredible feats from actors when we've seen on record that this stuff ruins people's bodies if like they do it all the time. The crash dieting, the constant working out, the fucking dehydration to make sure that every single muscle is bulging to its maximum bulgicity. Like, it's really not good, and I don't want to continue to like support an audience structure that like, or an audience expectation of that. So that's my way of saying I don't care if Robert Pattinson had CG abs. I do not give a shit.
I wish you luck in your crusade, sir.
That's just me. I'm angry and mad and tired all of the time. Don't mind me.
But what did you think about the Batman? What do you think about Robert Pattinson's abs? Let us know in the comments. Rata alata.
Maybe I need to stop being so angry all the time and I just need to be a symbol of hope. Is that it? Is that the message of all this? Do I need to become hope?
I am vengeance. And this has been the Talkcast Podshow. And we'll see you guys next time on the Talkcast Podshow.